Hello, everyone. This is Mimi Mordesai. I work on the marketing at Savings Oak. Welcome to another edition of The Right Way to HSA. I'm joined by my wonderful teammates, Niraj and Mark, and I'm going to let them take a moment to introduce themselves.
Hey, thanks, Mimi. This is Mark Siebold. I'm the head of sales at Savings Oak. I'm an HSA industry veteran going back to 2012, a big advocate of health savings accounts. And my focus is on helping employers increase HSA adoption, so getting more employees into the plan, and then helping those employees save more, hopefully for retirement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Neeraj Mathur. I'm the founder and CEO of Savings Oak. With a singular vision to be able to help more and more Americans be able to save for their healthcare expenses in retirement. Happy to be part of this, another edition of The Right Way to HSA.
Great. So today we're going to talk about something really key to health savings accounts, investments, and how it's beneficial for retirement and also for emergencies. So stay tuned until the end because we have lots of great information for you. So Mark, I'm going to ask you the first question. What are some immediate benefits to opening and contributing to your HSA?
Great question. So there's three things that I want to cover, hopefully fairly quickly. The first is the tax advantages. That's the biggest one that we probably talk about the most in the industry, is the advantages to the employee as well as the employer in terms of tax savings. The other one is what I think you mentioned it in your opening comments about HSA as an emergency fund. And then the third is the HSA can also be a retirement account and should be thought of as a retirement account. So those are the big three from my perspective in terms of the advantages to having employees, again, come into the plan and then start putting their own pre-tax dollars in. So when we talk about the tax advantages, the biggie is when you put money into the account, every dollar that goes in, that employee is not paying federal tax on that contribution. They're not paying payroll or FICA tax on that contribution. In most states, sans California and New Jersey, are not paying state tax on that contribution. So I did some quick math for this session. I can't do this on the fly. I'm not smart enough to do it. So I did some quick math here, just as an example to help people relate to this. If someone contributed $3,500 into their HSA account for a given year, which is a little bit below the individual plan maximum of $3,650, but just for a round number, they're going to save the 7.65% in FICA, which is $267 that they're saving that they would not save if they put it into a taxable account. They're saving, let's say they're 20% federal tax bracket. They're saving about $700 in federal taxes on that contribution. That's a really big number. And then from a state perspective, again, California, New Jersey, we'll put them to the side. Sorry to my esteemed colleagues who live in California that you don't get the state tax benefit. But let's say you live in a state where you do. 5% is a kind of a rough number. That's another $175. So in total, that $3,500 contribution that you put into your HSA account, you're going to save $1,142, give or take, based on your individual tax brackets, obviously, in taxes. So if you took that $3,500, put it into a taxable account and used it for healthcare, you're losing $1,142 of that money versus putting the $3,500 into the HSA account. You keep the $3,500. So much more spending power right out of the gate. But then bonus two is all the deferred growth in that account, whether it's in investments, hopefully that's where you're putting at least some of the money, or it's interest. You're not paying taxes on that either. So that money grows more quickly and you'll have a greater sum when you use the HSA versus using a taxable account. And then again, money that comes out completely tax-free if used for healthcare expenses. So huge tax benefits for employees, and that's the message we want to get to people. And I think using numbers like this helps employees synthesize it, understand it, and relate to it. When you see that big number, $1,000, over $1,000 on a $3,500 contribution, that's real. That's a lot of money, especially year after year after year. That money's now growing for you for future expenses versus being paid to Uncle Sam in the year that you make the contribution. So a bunch of big advantages there.
Yeah. Those definitely are huge. Oh, go ahead.
I was so curious because thank you for doing that quick math, Mark. Really appreciate that because it kind of personalizes and kind of gives a little more objectivity to her, and just talking, hey, it saves money. It's like your $3,500 contribution can lead up to, again, subject to taxes, individual scenarios, but $1,142. But more importantly, you and I, and we talk about this as like, yeah, HSAs have triple tax advantages, but there's another fourth advantage. Can you talk a little bit about how employers actually also have an advantage, which is the fourth advantage that from most people may not be aware, or employers or benefits managers may not fully be aware of?
Yeah, that's that FICA tax, that payroll tax that, just to use another example, if you make a contribution, an employee makes a contribution to their 401k, it's exempt from federal and state tax, which is awesome. But they're still paying that FICA tax on that 401k contribution, which is 7.65%. So the employer pays 7.65% on dollars paid to employees, and the employee also pays 7.65%. If that money, instead of being taken as a taxable amount, right, out of their paycheck, goes into the HSA account, the employer saves that 7.65%, and the employee saves their 7.65%. So from an employer perspective, if you have even 15, 20, 30, 40 people contributing to the HSA account, that money really adds up. And that's a big time number that's hitting your bottom line. Again, you don't get that in the 401k. 401k is still a great option. We want people to use that, obviously, for retirement. But the HSA, we got to start thinking about this as a retirement account in line with, and maybe even better than the 401k, because you're getting this extra benefit. And again, the money's coming out tax-free for medical expenses, which we all know we're going to have at some point down the line.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep. Excellent.
Thank you.
Sure.
So Mark, let me ask you, investing, why should one encourage employees to invest in their HSA or their HSA money?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to a couple things I already mentioned. One is, those tax benefits when it comes to the deferred growth in the HSA account. So when you put that money in, you get the great tax benefit on the contributions, then the money grows tax deferred. So the HSA becomes a great place to keep dollars and invest dollars, because if you get that 7-8% growth over time, which is, I think 10% is closer to the average over any 20-year period, all of that growth is tax-free. It's tax deferred and then tax-free when the money comes out. So huge advantage for the HSA account. And the other thing is, again, and I hit on this point a lot, maybe too much, is we need employees to think about the HSA as a retirement account. So when they think 401k, they think, okay, that's where I invest my money for retirement. Well, let's think about the HSA in the same light. Yes, you can use the money as an emergency fund if you need it prior to retirement, but hopefully you're taking at least some of, if not a majority of, the dollars you put into the HSA account and investing it using investments like ETFs and low-cost mutual funds and stocks and bonds. There's a plethora of investment options out there to get that money to grow for you, because that's how you're going to get at least close to that huge number we've talked about in previous sessions of $300,000 or more that you'll need in retirement for health-related expenses. You're not going to get there at 0.1% interest in terms of the annual growth you're getting on your deposits. You need to invest it, and hopefully invest it for many, many years, so that becomes a big pot of dollars for you that you're going to need in retirement for healthcare.
Nice. Thank you. Niraj, let me ask you this next question. So what are some ways that an employer can incentivize or encourage their employees to invest?
Wow. Look, I think Mark's touched on this. I'll pick it up from a step from what he said earlier. The whole realization and kind of driving the message that HSAs are not only from a standpoint of a great way to manage your healthcare expenses in retirement and otherwise, but they should also be looked upon as a augmentation of your retirement planning. In addition to 401k, in addition to other things that people are doing, HSAs are actually a unique way, best put out there for people to be able to save money and be able to leverage that money in retirement for healthcare expenses and for other reasons as well. So in terms of incentivizing, I think we've talked about this in the past, where employers should be looking at either seeding, matching, and coming up with new ways to reward their employees to put contributions towards their HSA. Now, what does that each of those mean? Seed money could be that as employees are getting started with their HSAs, employers could look at this as a benefit. They could provide a fixed amount, $500 to $1,000. And in our conversations with small, mid-sized businesses, many of them are actually either actively doing this now or looking for options to be able to seed the HSA accounts, so the employees start with some money in their HSA and be able to move forward and add more of their own cash, of their own dollars into those accounts. The other part could be coming up with ways to, as employees put money, contribute dollars into their HSA account, the employers look at ways to matching some of that amount. Instead of just saying, okay, here you go with $1,000 up front, they say, when you make certain contributions, very similar to what we've seen in the past around the other retirement vehicle that most people are now aware of, 401k, I would go out and say pretty much that HSAs are far better positioned in terms of 401ks for people in terms of healthcare expenses management. So match their dollars. And then one of the things that we promote here at Savings Oak is driving the right behavior requires aligning the incentives towards those behaviors. And that is about the reward system. And rewarding not just in terms of saying, okay, if you do, here you have $10 to open an account or $15 for doing this, because cash is only so much. And then, of course, not all of us talk about inflation, but looking at ways and providing rewards in a mechanism that actually enables the employees to, one, put more money into their HSA account for their HSA. Second, giving them incentives such as for example, a portion of a stock that allows them to actually just get one moment, but something that will grow over a period of time, and other rewards towards that behavior. It could be with certain key steps. For example, when an employee opens an account, by automatically they actually get a stock. Or when they do the first contribution from their paycheck, they actually get something. Or when they actually reach a certain threshold, let's say in 6 months, they've actually saved $1,500 or something like that, that continues to incentivize the employee to keep doing the right thing. We are all aware of, Mark mentioned about this $300,000, $320,000 that a couple's going to need for their healthcare expenses in retirement. Fact of the matter is, when you think about what does that really mean, it's looking at $20,000, $30,000 a year for a couple. And if you think about and investing now, that's why we talk about long-term planning. Some amount of money now going in towards a longer-term investment helps people to do that. So seed, match, reward. And of course, there are other mechanisms to do that as well, is kind of providing relevant, very contextual information to educate people as to why they should be looking at HSAs in a different light, rather than thinking more about, well, I'm on a high deductible health plan. Oh, that's going to create issues. More about kind of letting them know you're actually taking control of your own health plan and health spending, and giving yourselves a piggy bank to pay for healthcare expenses down in the future.
Thank you. Okay, thank you both. All great insights. So with that, we have wrapped another edition of The Right Way to HSA. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We are here every week on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific time on LinkedIn and Twitter. And if you have any questions, please feel free to go to our website at savingsoak.com. Click on the Contact Us button and ask us your questions, and one of our HSA specialists will get right back to you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mimi, for having me. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the insights that you bring with the wealth of information that you bring always.
Thank you.
Thank you.